So for this video, we're going to be looking at the nature and workings of the late Republic with two sources: the Electioneering Handbook, which is 13 to 24, and then Letter 3 by Cicero to Atticus. So we're going to start with the Electioneering Handbook, which is the English translation of this horrific Latin up here. Obviously, in exams, if you're quoting from this, do just call it the Electioneering Handbook. The examiner's marking will understand which source you are talking about. So this particular source is written by Cicero's brother, Quintus Cicero, as mentioned here. It may not have been written by him. It's possibly written by some students under the emperors. We're not entirely sure. However, this particular section of this handbook is really useful for showing us the different methods that were needed to help somebody get elected in the Republican system. So we're going to start at the top and work our way down. So since I've explained what means you have, or could have, of overcoming the fact you are a novus homo. So remember, a novus homo is a new man. This is a person whose family has never been elected through the cursus honorum. So Cicero, who this is the topic of this particular pamphlet, is a novus homo. No one in his family had run for election. So the fact it's saying that we are overcoming this fact shows that those people who were novus homos found it quite difficult to be elected, and this is why this pamphlet's going to give him lots of advice about how he should sort of use his election campaign to overcome this particular fact. Okay, so I think I should now speak about the importance of the election campaign. You're a candidate for the consulship. No one believes you to be unworthy of his office, but many are envious. For you, an equus, this is another word for equestrian, are seeking the highest position in the state, highest in the sense that the same office confers much more distinction on a man who is brave, eloquent, free, and free from crime than others. In fact, I'm going to unhighlight that bit. Sorry, just give me 2 seconds. There we go. So this bit actually is probably most important. So this is showing us that the elections to different positions on the cursus honorum, but particularly the consulship, brings lots of distinction or dignitas or dignity to an individual. So one of the key things we look at for the late Republic is some of the aims and objectives of key politicians. So this shows us one of the aims for politicians is to be elected because it brings them distinction or dignitas. Do not imagine that those who have held this office fail to see you as standing once you've obtained it. I have suspicion that those who belong to consular families but have not yet gained the position of the forefathers are envious of you. So remember I said how dignitas is really important to all Roman politicians. So if in your family, for example, your father had been a consul, which is what this is basically referring to, so consular families, you had to match what your father has achieved in terms of elections. So if your father had been a consul, you have to be a consul too. So he's pointing out that some of the people he was running up against are people going to be from consular families who've not yet been able to sort of match their family. And because of this, they are going to be very envious of you because you're a new man running for the consulship as well, and they don't like it particularly. So that's what is talking about, apart from those who are your close friends. So novi homini, so just the plural of new men, who have held the office of praetor, I presume, except for those who are obliged to meet you for some service, are reluctant to be outstripped you by office. Fair enough, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Indeed, I know full well that you are aware how many among the people are jealous of you, how many become hostile to a novus homo. Again, it's pretty obvious, as I said earlier, people don't like new men, particularly because there's quite a lot of snobbery in Roman politics. So if you were a new man and you're sort of from a plebeian background, you weren't treated as fairly as someone from an aristocratic background whose family have been running in the elections for a really long time. So people are these nobles are quite hostile to these new men. Because of the patterns of events in the past few years, some of them must even be angry with you as a result of these cases you've pleaded. So this is talking about Cicero's law background. Furthermore, look around and consider whether, because you applied yourself with such zeal to increasing the glory of Pompey, those whom you consider to be your amici for this reason are they really on your side? So Cicero, because he was from a new man background, he knew he had to kind of throw his lot in with some really sort of influential politicians. Sort of like to almost like borrow their dignitas, to borrow their dignity. So one of the key people that Cicero always is supporting is Pompey. So he really pushes forward Pompey's friendship and the zeal of Pompey and the glory of Pompey in order to gain this kind of dignitas as a result of him. Amici here is just the Latin word for friendship. So he's sort of suggesting just because you've sort of really glorified Pompey, those who are your friends, make sure they're actually on your side. It might just be because you're latched on to Pompey that they're actually friends with you. So therefore, since you're seeking the highest office of state, you see the interests that are lined up against you. You should consider every detail and apply attention, diligence, and hard work to everything. So because you've got all these problems in your background, as it were, just because you're a new man, you're going to have to work a little bit harder, be really, really careful, and be really diligent. A campaign for election to magistracy can be divided into two kinds of activity. Firstly, to gain the support of one's friendship or amicy. Secondly, to win the goodwill of the people. So this is showing us two key things to have in terms of getting elected. You need to have friendships, and you need to have the plebs or the people on your side. So what this source is now going to go on and on about is the importance of friendship. This is the kind of key crux of everything. The support of one's amicy should be secured by kindness done and repaid, by long-standing acquaintance, and by a charming and affable nature. But the friend amicus has a wider application in an election campaign than the rest of life. Anyone who shows any sympathy towards you, who pays attention to you, who frequents your house, should be reckoned among your amicy. So in Roman politics, friendships are built around sort of favours you give each other, as well as through family friendships, as well as marriages. So if we look at this first line, which I've not highlighted, it says, well, amicy should be secured by kindness done and repaid. So if someone does you a favour, you are therefore their amicy, and it's expected that you should repay that particular friendship. So in fact, while we're here, let us highlight that, because that's quite useful. So it's like a quid pro, I can't say the phrase properly, but you do one favour of someone else, they're expected to do it back again. So again, he's pointing out that anybody who's ever helped you or pays attention or comes to your house is going to be your friend. On the other hand, it's most important to be kind and warm-hearted to those who really are your friends, for a relationship of marriage or blood, through a collegium or other connection. That makes perfect sense. Next, you must take great trouble to see that anyone who's closely connected with you, in particular members of your household, supports you eagerly and wants you to be successful as possible. Then to those of your tribe, neighbours, clientes, liberati too, and last, even your slaves. So it's pointing out that every part of your household and sort of wider connections is really important. So your tribe is obviously your family background, sort of the clan your family belongs to, your neighbours obviously. So your clients, so these are people you have helped previously, they are expected to canvass on your behalf. These are freed slaves, and then your actual slaves. So if every rumour comes on the common gossip of the forum, origins and sources of your own home, i.e. keep your family in check, otherwise rumours might spread and it's going to be difficult. So now he's going to go on again about the importance of friendship. So it's necessary to have amicy of every kind. Okay, for the sake of appearance, make friends with those who are distinguished in rank and title. So again, it's all about bringing in dignitas. If you make friends with those who have consular backgrounds, you're going to sort of leech off some of their dignitas and gain it for yourself. People will vote for you because, let's say it's Pompey supports you. So that's why he's pointing out it's really, really, really important. And though they may not be active to support the campaign, nevertheless confer some prestige on the candidate, which is exactly what I have just said, so it's highlighted. In order to make the good justice of your claim, make friends with the magistrates, in particular consuls, like I said, friends in high places, and secondly, the tribuni plebis, so those who are looking after the plebs. In order to get the votes off the centuria, so that's one of the assemblies, make friends with men who have exceptional influence. Which is, again, if you make friends with really important people, they will tell their friends to vote for you, and their friends will vote for you, and so on and so forth. Okay, so make special efforts to win over and keep loyal to yourself such men as, because of your influence, have hope to have the votes, there we go, of a tribe in a centuria, or who can help you in some other way. So it's all about these connections. That's the most important thing according to this pamphlet. For recent years, men of ambition have worked hard with zeal and effort to be able to obtain what they wanted from members of the tribe. You should endeavour by whatever means you can to see these men show the support with a genuine sincerity. So again, like I said, the source kind of repeats itself a little bit as we're going through. But if men are sufficiently grateful, all these sources of influence ought to be available to you, as I am confident in fact they are. For within the last 2 years, you have laid under obligation to yourself 4 collegia, So he's managed to get these kind of 4 groups of supporters behind him, all of the greatest men of influence around campaign. So in trusting their cases to your case, I know that these members of the collegia have undertaken themselves and promised you. So because he's helped these key people, and as a result, the groupings that follow their names are therefore supporting Cicero as well. And when I say entrusting their cases to your case, it most likely to be from a judicial background. These are probably individuals that Cicero has helped defend or prosecute on their behalf in the law courts. Thus, you must see that in this time you'll demand for these men their debts by frequent advice seeking their votes. Pretty self-explanatory. By careful encouragement, so they realise they will never have an opportunity for showing their gratitude. You've helped me, now is your opportunity to help me. It didn't quite make sense, I think you know what I mean. Certainly they've encouraged to show active support for you in the expectation of your future returns to them. So it's just reiterating that point, that because they will help you, they will be expecting you to help them in the future as well. As like I said, it's a help me help you kind of situation. Now, since your election campaign is founded to a very large degree upon the sort of amnesty you've won as a result of your defences in the courts, so Cicero's background is in the law courts. Because he is a novus homo, it's a really good method in order to gain dignitas. Essentially, people who were new men have 2 options. They can be lawyers or they can go into the army. Cicero is definitely not a fighter, to be completely honest. He is a lawyer. Fantastic rhetoric skills and oratory skills. That, as a result, he was very, very successful in his law career. It made him very, very famous very, very quickly. And he gained a lot of dignitas as a result of it. So this is what the source is pointing out, that a lot of these friends you have is because you have defended them in court and been very, very, very successful. See that every single person whom you hold bound to you by some tie has his personal role well defined and specified. As you've never been a nuisance to any of them in anything, see they understand you have saved at the moment for all the debts you think they owe you. So he's not been sort of begging them to help him in the past. So he's basically going and saying, well, now you've got your opportunity. You know, I've helped you with the law courts. I expect you to come out and canvass on my behalf. There are 3 things which act as particular incentives for men to be well disposed and give their support to a campaign: a favour, hope, and spontaneous goodwill. So that's just reinforcing it. So you've done something for them in the past, or they want you. Let me start that again. They have helped you in the past, so you're repaying the favour, or they hope that you will then in the future do them something good, or they just really like you and just fancy being helpful. So you must pay attention to ways of making sure each of these. Yeah, fair enough. You can win men over to thinking that they have sufficient reason to support your cause by the smallest of favours. So again, it's the whole like, if I scratch your back, you'll scratch mine. So those you have actually saved, and there are very many of them, just reiterating, he's got a very good law career, cannot fail to understand that if they do not do enough for you at this vital time, they will never be respected by anyone. However, there still remains a need to canvass them in person. So canvassing is literally going around to different households and speaking to people, making promises. So you're saying, you know, friendship's all well and good, but you still need to actually go around in person and speak to these people in order to get them on side, just to make sure they're definitely going to be out there supporting you, and get them to think that we appear to be indebted in return to those who've been so far our debtors. As for those who are bound to us by hopes, a class still more zealous and eager on your behalf, you must give the impression your assistance is always ready and at their disposal. So these are people, remember, who are hoping that in some point in the future that Cicero would help them. So whether it be legally or any other way, that's the whole point. You go and speak to these people and you say, yeah, of course, you vote for me, will you help me? I'm always going to help you. You know my name is good, and in the future, if you need me, I will be there for you. So making these future promises. And also make them perceive you to take great notice of their services. You seem to observe and appreciate fully whatever each one dispose on you. Oh, I'm nearly at the end of this particular source. The third class of supporters are those with spontaneous goodwill. So these people just fancy being helpful. This you will have to strengthen by showing gratitude, by adapting what you say to particular circumstances which seem to make a man favourably disposed towards you. So this is the whole, these people just seem to be wanting to help you for no apparent reason. So whatever you sort of campaign or say to them, you make sure applies to them specifically in order to make sure they stay in your favour. By demonstrating equal goodwill to them, by encouraging them to hope for a closer friendship, amicitia. In your dealings with each of these kinds of supporters, each kind of support, voters. You must weigh up and judge for yourself the value of every one of them to you, so that you can decide how much attention should be paid to them by you and what you can expect to be done for them. So it's just reiterating the point of when we help them, they'll help you. There are some men who exercise influence in their own district and town, prosperous and industrious people who, despite having shown no previous interest in your cause, may work well their hardest for a candidate when the time comes. If there is one whom they feel indebted or whom they wish to help, you must pay attention to such men. So I've highlighted that top bit and that bit, so you would use an ellipsis between the two. So again, it's pointing out that it's people who are really, really important in particular areas. It's a really good idea to keep them on side, because obviously they will be useful because they can sort of drum up support for you in their town where they've got this influence. So then they may come to realise that you know what you can depend on from them, that you take notice of what actually they receive from them, and have not the ability or mind to make efforts on the spur of the moment. See that you distinguish these in order not to put greater dependence on any of them that would be justified by a small amount of help they provide. Okay, so the main point of this particular source is make friends, make sure you make friends, keep making friends, and make more friends. So we're going to move on to letter 3. Now we've spent this whole source up here talking about Cicero. We've not really talked about Cicero in lesson yet. You will get to know Cicero through the late Republican course, because he's quite an important person that we study. All you need to know about in context of this particular letter is that this particular date he is running for the praetorship. Atticus is one of his closest friends. So because we're talking about elections, this is what this particular source is going to be going on about. There are lots and lots of names. To be honest, most of them you do not need to worry about, and there are bits of the source that I will skim over. So the position as regards to my candidature, in which I know you are deeply interested, is as follows. So far as can be foreseen up to this date, only P. Galba is canvassing, and he's getting for an answer good old Roman non, plain and unvarnished. Now Galba himself, to be honest, not important. What is important is the fact that he is canvassing, so he's going around and talking to people. However, it is generally thought that this premature canvassing of his has rather helped my prospects. So he's been doing it too early, so this is an issue. So canvassing is important. If you do it too early, it is a problem. For people are commonly refusing him on the ground they are obligated to me. So this is reinforcing everything that the electioneering handbook was talking about. That because he has these key friends and that he has helped them in the past, they are obligated towards Cicero to help with his particular campaign. Okay. So I hope to draw some advantage when the word goes around that a great many friends of mine are coming to light. So again, re-emphasising this Amacy issue. I was thinking of starting my canvass just as when, Cincius, I think, says your boy will leave with this letter, as in 7th July, Tribunican elections in the campus. And then he has some rivals that we're going to skim over. Really weird phrasing here, but get ready to slap your forehead. So as in like, oh dear, how stupid are these people? I just did that as a motion and you can't see me, so that's a bit weird. To be honest, I'm not really interested. This Catiline person, however, we are very interested in. I'm not going to tell you why we're so interested in him at the moment, but we are. What we do have is this guy has been in the court system, and Cicero is expecting him, as he says, the sun doesn't shine at midday, he'll be certainly a candidate. He expects him to be found not guilty. What you can use this to show is that people who are under the threat of prosecution, their chances of being elected are reduced as a result of it. So he's sort of saying, if this guy's found not guilty, then he's definitely going to be running for the candidature. And actually, at this particular point in their careers, Cicero was hoping in order to sort of join up with Catiline in his election campaigning. And that's what I'm going to tell you about Catiline at this particular point. Of the present candidates, L. Julius Caesar, not the famous Julius Caesar, different one, is regarded as a certainty. The other place is thought to life between Thermus and Silanus. They are so poorly off for friends and reputation. So he's talking about these other candidates. You'll notice very quickly with Cicero's letters is he's a little bit two-faced about people, and he does quite like to gossip. He likes to gossip a lot. So he's pointing out that these guys don't have friends and reputation, so they're really struggling. So they're probably not going to be elected. Then from my point of view, the best result for me for Thermus to get in with Caesar, since he looks like being a strong candidate, as any of the present lot is let over to my year. The reason being he is curator of the Flaminian Way. So this is showing that this particular Caesar has become really, really popular because he's been sort of looking after this particular road. So that's a way of gaining reputation. He's obviously been an Aedile in the past, and he's done it really successfully, and as a result he's got a lot of dignitas and people really like him. So he's saying that this guy here, Thermus, should get in with this guy because this other guy's really popular. So this is just an example of you kind of borrowing dignitas off another person in order to get elected yourself. So that is what that is particularly talking about. Another point he raises here: as Gallus looks like heavily counting in the voting, I shall run down to join Piso's staff in September, in the dead period after the courts have closed, returning in January. So it's showing that the provincial votes are also really important in the elections. So in order to sort of gain the provincial support, Cicero is probably going to go down and join up with this guy called Piso onto his sort of armed forces out there, just as a member of staff, not as an actual soldier, in order to try and drum up support from the provincials to help him in his elections. So it's not just people in Rome that's really important, it's everybody who can actually vote. When I've made out the attitudes of the nobles, I shall write you. So he's pointing out that the nobles, again, are really important. So he's going to try and sort of feel his way, figure out what the nobles is going to do in terms of his election. So once he's figured that out, he's going to tell his friend. So not only has he got the support of key friendships, he's also pointing out he needs the support of the provincials and he needs the support of the nobles. This is going to be really important for someone like Cicero, who is a novus homo. He needs the support of everybody if he can get in. And then we're going to skim over this little bit. He does talk about, again, this linking up with Pompey that was in the electioneering handbook, telling him I'm not sure if he's offended if he doesn't turn up for my election. So he's not expecting Pompey to, go around literally saying vote for Cicero, but he's going to obviously push that he has been supporting Pompey all this time. So again, kind of leeching off Pompey with some of the support. So then we have some court cases that Cicero is involved in. It's a slightly complicated affair, so we're not going to talk about a lot of it. Essentially, this guy, let me make sure I get the right way around. This guy here has been suffering from fraud. Like, this guy Varius has defrauded him, and he wants Cicero to help him in the court case, this guy here. However, he says no, because he's friends with someone else, is the gist of it, and he upsets this Kellius a little bit. He was sort of debating whether or not to kind of help him. Hang on. Because this guy had helped his brother Quintus Cicero when they were candidates for another election. So this guy it's all like a really complicated web of people with friends with other people. He's sort of saying, I can't help him because I'm friends with him, and he's got to think about the elections. So that is what basically this is going on about it. And he's a bit worried because this guy doesn't take it particularly well. He took it less kindly than I would have wished, but there's not much he can do about it. On the time he entirely dropped our friendly contacts. So this could be a bit of an issue going forward, maybe in terms of elections. He's lost the support of this guy because he won't help him in the court case. And that's the difficulty with this voting system, with the kind of the Roman political system, is you've got to kind of try and juggle all these different amici, all these different friendships. And sometimes these friendships clash. And you can put out a key friend because you can't help them in a court case, in Cicero's case. So this could harm his election for further on. But obviously Cicero would have made that judgment call at the time, and obviously decided that it was not too much of an issue in order to turn him down. Like I said, you don't have to be able to regurgitate that particular story. It's just a bit to explain what's going on in that particular section. And then, he's then justifying to Atticus why he's done it here. So, it's hard. Actually, forgive me for this. It was good feeling preventing from appearing against a friend in great trouble. So he's saying, I know I've made a difficult decision. Please don't sort of be upset with me. And then he points out how vital I think it is not only to keep old friends, but to gain new ones. So he said, look, I know it's really important to keep these old friendships, but actually to gain new ones who are probably slightly more important people is going to help my cause a little bit better. And that is those are the two sources talking about the election system and the importance of friendship, etc. in the late Republic.